I guess on the opposite spectrum of things, who is your biggest first half disappointment?
There are a couple. I think Ovechkin's a disappointment. Tage Thompson's a disappointment. Some of the guys have started to turn it around that were early season disappointments, like Matthew Tkachuk and Jason Robertson and guys like that. Of course, injuries always play into it. I know Ovechkin's a little banged up right now. I think that the Sabres are my most disappointing team so far. I know they had a big win over the weekend. I know they've been pretty good since the new year, and they're only like whatever 7 points back as we record here. But it's just one of those things where I just expected so much more of a ripple effect from that entire roster, starting with Tage Thompson. And I know that he dealt with some injury early on, and most of the guys on that team, not to make an excuse, but Skinner is banged up. Tuck has been day to day, like all season long, right? Darlene keeps coming back even when he gets banged up in games and holding down the fort. But yeah, Tage Thompson is up there among my biggest disappointments just because I expected to be in the contention for the Rocket Richard.
Yeah, I agree. And all the while, Steven threatening to go viral there with the cat doing the flyby on his screen. We're gonna have to
I
clip that
saw
one for
that.
later. You're like that guy, the office guy with his kids, and that clip a few years ago. But it's interesting. Yeah, there he is. There's Blue the cat. I can sneeze almost looking at him. That's how allergic I am. But it's funny, especially Pete. You mentioned Ovechkin, and to me, he's been one of the more confounding players, just because obviously we know he's aging, but also he was unlucky with his shooting percentage, and it seemed like he had a little spark a couple weeks ago. I traded for him, and then I traded him away. So I bought low, and then I sold lower, which is pretty crazy to think about it, and it kind of connects to the next question. If not Ovechkin, it could be someone else. But which star player going into the season do you feel ready to drop, maybe even in a shallow league?
That's tough. I don't know that I have the best answer for that one, just because I tend to be very patient with star players around the league. John Carlson, to go off that same topic, I'm not sure I would drop him just because defenseman is so scarce, but I feel like he's had a little fall from grace, and it's crazy because the team has been more competitive, generally speaking, than I ever would have expected. I thought they were, almost gravitating toward a rebuild a little bit, but they weren't treating the roster as such. But the Capitals stars of the past are no longer like those dominant fantasy sources of power. So, I might consider dropping a player like that. But the defenseman position is so tough. Like all these key guys have been missing for weeks now, right? Sergachev and Heiskanen and Shea Theodore. I haven't heard much about him in a while. So maybe you hang on for a while. Again, 95% of the time, these star players with a pedigree from 5+ seasons ago, over the past 5 seasons, I should say, I would stick with them more times than not. But maybe John Carlson's one, like by association, that you would consider dropping.